Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the kind introduction. I'm a bit sad that I can't be there in the room with you guys. But yeah, I will talk a bit about Webknossos first, and then I will talk a bit about OME-Zarr, which I'm sure has been covered quite in detail at this event already. So first, Webknossos is a web-based platform for dealing with very large images. It's a collaborative platform, and yeah, we developed it originally in collaboration with the Max Planck Institute for Brain Research. So I will show you a couple of features. The first one is it's a visualization tool, right? So this is an image of a full fly brain. It's around 50 terabytes in size. This video here is in real time. And so you can appreciate that the data loads quite quickly, regardless of the size of the data. And you can zoom out to see the full brain, and you can zoom in to see individual synapses or mitochondria and all of that. And all of this runs in a web browser, so there's no need to install anything, and everything has a URL, so it's also very easy just to share it with other people. Webknossos not only supports electron microscopy, it supports many modalities. This is a light sheet movie here. It supports other kinds of light microscopy and X-rays, and so it's quite versatile in that sense. And a new feature that we're working on is being able to correlate multiple images from different modalities in the same view, so that you can do correlative analysis on top of that. And Webknossos is not just a visualization tool, but it's also a data management platform where you can store all your data sets, regardless of the size, in one place and manage them from there. So it has capabilities for attaching metadata to it, tags. You can organize the data sets in folders. And most importantly, you can also attach permissions to folders or data sets. So if you run a facility, then you can have like a folder per project and then assign the team to that folder, and then the users will be able to have access from their home institution to the data just over the web interface, and you can manage all of that through the interface. Because everything runs on a server, also it's accessible through programmatic interfaces, through APIs. We do have a Python library to make that a bit more easy. And this short example here, there's some data, some private data is read from Webknossos, and then some custom analysis is being run, but it's quite versatile. Again, you can also upload data. Of course, you can attach metadata. You can really do anything in Webknossos also through an API. And one example of that is we just recently set up Webknossos at the MBL in Hamburg, which runs a synchrotron facility there. And their unique thing is that they do high throughput imaging. So a single scan only takes a few minutes. Then reconstruction also only takes a few minutes. Then the data is uploaded and all the metadata is attached to it in Webknossos. So essentially, the users, before they can hop onto the train on their way home, have already access to the data on Webknossos and can start their analysis there. So this really shows the power of the automation that can be done with Webknossos and its web-based platform. Another category of features that Webknossos has is data annotation. So there are quite a few. There are segmentation tools, there are skeletization tools, there's other simpler box tools and measurement tools. Here we're looking at a semi-automatic segmentation tool, which is powered by Segment Anything version 2 model. And again, everything runs in a web browser, so it's also easy to collaborate with other people. You can just invite students or collaborators into your account, and they can help you do annotation work. And it works not only on the computer, but also on other devices that have browsers like an iPad, where you can also use it with a pen if you want to. Once you've done segmentation work, then you can get some statistics out. So you can get statistics of all the individual objects that have been painted. You can download those and do your analysis then. You can also look at these gorgeous 3D meshes that have been generated from the segmentations. You can export them, you can work with them in Webknossos directly, and you can also make animations directly from Webknossos and showcase them in lab presentations or blog posters, things like that. Yeah, and a few new features that we've launched just recently are based on AI, of course. This is an electron microscopy tool or for alignment in electron microscopy, which is very important. So users can upload an unaligned stack, and then with the clicks of a few buttons, they can get an aligned version of that stack. And then other AI features that we've launched are automated segmentation. So this volume here has been fully segmented with an automated system. And on Webknossos now, it's possible to train models and also do inference without having to worry about the underlying infrastructure or knowing too much about how these AI systems are set up. So a workflow now that users can do is they can annotate the data in Webknossos. They basically annotate a few boxes of training data, start the model training, run this model. Then the first iteration might not be perfect, so then users can go in and again use the annotation tools to fix up some of the annotations. And now basically they have way more training data that they can then use to train a second version of the model. And after 2 or 3 cycles, then they will have a model which will perform probably pretty good on your data set, and then you can roll it out into your large volume if you want to. So this is now a new feature that's present in Webknossos. To summarize a bit, Webknossos is a web-based platform for working with very large images. It scales from a few gigabytes to petabytes per image. It has features for doing pre-processing like alignment. It can visualize large data sets, makes it very easy to collaborate and to do annotations. It has automated segmentation features, can do proofreading, and it also has some publication features. All of this while also having data management capabilities and supporting multiple modalities. Yeah. And now I want to talk a bit more about interoperable and OME-Zarr in the second part of my talk. So under the hood, Webknossos uses chunked file formats. And you can think of it like typically microscopes that acquire a sample like this would spit out like a sequence of files which are basically oriented around the sections, right? And that's not super efficient for doing visualization. In particular, if you want to do virtual reslices or arbitrary rotations in your data set. So a more efficient way of storing the data is in cubes, which are 3-dimensional, and then you can access each of these individual cubes individually, and that makes the data streaming in Webknossos possible and also provides like the loading speeds that we can see. And the key enabler for this technology is that you use fairly small chunks. But this has a huge downside, which is that you have way too many files, because if every of these single cubes is its own file, then you just have way too many, and that can cause issues in many storage systems, including file systems, but also object storage systems. So the chunk size that we use is pretty small, so even a terabyte would be in the tens of thousands of files, and then if you scale that up, then that just becomes a burden to handle. So an idea to solve this is to put multiple chunks into one file. And this is then what we call a shard. And this basically solved this problem for us. But we do care about interoperability, and we wanted to use OME-Zarr as a data format so that the data sets in Webknossos can also be used in other tools. But there was no sharding support, right? So first we helped out to finalize the version 3 of the OME-Zarr course specification. Then we did add the sharding codec to OME-Zarr so that the specification was out there. We did that in collaboration with Jeremy Shepard at Google. And then we also helped to bring in the new version of OME-Zarr into OME-Zarr, and this ended up in RFC 2 and is now the version 0.5 of OME-Zarr. There's a lot of numbers, but the gist is that the specification work wasn't done, and the next part was to help with implementations. We first started out building the Zarrita Python library, which was an experimental library to support OME-Zarr v3 support. But as you can see, it's been archived now because we ported that work over to the default library for OME-Zarr, which is OME Python, and helped to roll out the version 3 of that. And that was a big collaboration effort, also with some folks from the earth science community. And now we're also helping to bring OME-Zarr v3 support into the Java ecosystem with the OME-Zarr Java implementation. So OME-Zarr v3 now is quite usable in many different applications, which is great. A new feature now that we're working on in the realm of OME-Zarr is defining metadata for collections of images. So in Webknossos, we quite often have this situation where you have, for example, an electron microscopy image. It's overlaid with a segmentation map, which we can see in this screenshot here. Then you might have additional layers like an AI prediction map, or you have different modalities that are correlated, like light microscopy or X-rays on top of your EM. And so we're now working on a new RFC, which defines all of that. And again, this is a collaborative project to define this metadata and make it then also work in the tools that support OME-Zarr. And another feature that we're working on is to improve the user experience for OME-Zarr, because now ZARs are usually folders that contain the internal data structure, and this is not what end users typically expect, right? So you have like this folder, but it's an image file that has all of these nested folders, and everything's just a number. So that's just a bit unwieldy. And so we're working on a way to improve that user experience, and the solution for that is to actually package up OME-Zarr inside of zip files, and this is an RFC that's been led by Jonas Windhager, and this is going to be RFC 9. And if you look closely at this previous screenshot, we already have it here. So there's going to be a new file extension for OZX, which will also allow us to do some operating system level integration so that users can then double click on the file and will open up in Fiji or Napari or their other favorite tool for working with OME-Zarr. It's also much easier to transfer around. You can just attach these things to emails if they're not too big. Or upload them without having to upload many files. So this is something that will improve the user experience for OME-Zarr quite a bit. And all of these efforts are part of a bigger journey towards a stable version of OME-Zarr 1.0, which we're very happy to be a part of, and we're also very happy to receive some funding from this, from BioHub and others. So we're looking forward to working on this with the community to really make OME-Zarr a reality. Yeah, and that I would like to thank you all for your attention.